Hello, hello. My name is Aya Iworiosa of the Moon Garden Temple, and I'm here to help you remember who you are, restore your roots, and reclaim your power coming out of hibernation. Hibernation's so good. Away from people, not as much mess, not as much joy either. So, coming out of hibernation, I'm really glad to see you all. Big love and blessings to wherever you are in your life, and blessings to the spirits and the energies and the ancestors and everything you bring with you. And I recognize that wherever you are, no matter what's going on in your life, you may be suffering something right now. And for that, I'm sending you big, warm hugs and kisses and hugs and embraces and blessings of support around you. And before we get started, I'm just going to share this video online if it's possible. I don't know. I haven't streamed in a really long time. I feel like it's a whole new world that I just don't even, it's like a whole new world that is new to me. So, okay, there we go. Things have changed in the last few years. Okay. So, I wanted to talk right now. We're in sort of the last phase of summer. We're kind of in between the last two phases of summer. And I'm already starting to see the trees change there wasn't as much bright sun in the last few days here in Portland. So they're already starting to kind of like feel it. We're not in the 90s anymore. We're coming down into the 60s. So like there's been a big phase change. And if you've been following a lot of people that I've been talking to anyway, and this might be happening in your life, people are pruning. It's also a good time to like prune those herbs, right? So people are pruning their friendships and their connections and the communities that they're in, and that certainly was happening in my life. It's not always an easy thing, but another thing that's come up recently is the losing of people. Recently, in a community that I'm in, very prominent, beautiful soul who held a lot of ceremony and space for us passed on. That was yesterday. And it is a different journey for everybody who experiences it. And I won't get into the details of that specific experience, but it seems that it goes along with this time of year, major change in relationships. Also, losing someone could also mean losing somebody that you're close with. They might still be here in their human form, but maybe you're not close with them anymore. And if you know what I'm talking about, that feeling of loss, even if the person's still here on earth with us, that feeling of loss can cause a lot of grief. And so I wanted to, pull some cards, a little divination here. If you have questions, I might be able to see them on this streaming service. If you have questions or you want me to pull something for you, let me know in the comments right here. And I'll see if I can see that. Give me a little thumbs up right now if you can hear and see this live or in a recording. So I'm going to pull a few cards here. And the first card I actually pulled yesterday, upon learning about, the passing of this loved one, was upheaval. And this deck, you might not be able to see the cards very well, but this deck is the Urban Crow deck if you're interested. And I really just want to talk to you about upheaval. What comes up within us. Obviously, when somebody passes or somebody leaves your life, of course, there's upheaval in like logistics. How does a community or how do you as an individual, deal with this loss? Logistics of how do we get meals to the family, or logistics of if it's somebody who's still here on this earth and you're leaving a friendship, logistics of like, oh, I don't call that person anymore. Like I don't want to be connected to that person on social media anymore for some of us. So sometimes it's like that. But there's a deeper upheaval. It's the most important upheaval. It's the one that it's important to pay attention to. And that is like what happens inside us. There's a void when somebody dies, especially when somebody dies. This happens with people who when you leave friendships as well. But when somebody leaves their body here on earth, there is a void that happens, that density of their energy being in that body and how that energy interacts with your energy and a community energy and, everything in their home and in the air they breathe and the water around them. Once that is not necessarily gone, right? Because your energy and spirit lives on. But when that marriage of that person's spirit and that corporeal body, right? When that leaves, the energy changes. The spirit is not feeding those cords anymore, and so there's this void, right? And that affects everything that's connected. You have a cord to this person who died, so there's this going on, right? There's a connection, and when that person leaves, like, you might still be receiving from them in a spirit world or somewhere else, and you might still be able to give to them across dimensions, right? But there's a significant absence when they leave their human form. And so that's what's happening right now in a community I'm in. And that upheaval is something that I think a lot of us like to try to avoid. I know I have, and I don't laugh because I laugh because it's the way that I tend to experience intense things. I tend to laugh a lot in my life. It's like a way to shake up my own energy. But in the past, I definitely have done the avoidance thing. Maybe you have too. Let me know. But there's a beautiful thing about paying attention to the upheaval, to that feeling of loss. Of course, we are going to experience grief, and that comes in and out and expresses itself in so many different strange ways. But right now, or if it is for you right now, in the moments when you feel that upheaval, that cord, that connection is different. It's not lost. It's just different. That feeling of major change, right? That you maybe weren't expecting. Sometimes we're not even expecting it, and it happens. There's a really beautiful thing if you can face it, and I'm encouraging you to face it. There's a really beautiful thing that happens, and that's when a person leaves their body, right? They don't go away into nothingness, but when they leave their body and that changes and there's that void, they will leave things behind, right? They will choose, their spirit will be like, here are the things, will make a decision about things they don't really need to take with them into that next dimension, into that next life, into whatever realm it is, or whatever you believe, right? There are things they literally leave behind, choose to leave behind for you. And the best time to receive whatever that is right when they leave, very soon after when they leave. There's something that they are if that cord exists, no matter if you saw that person every day, or if that's somebody that you just feel, if you have a feeling of closeness with this person, right? If you have history and if you have not done any cutting cords of this person, right? And you have experience of this person, they're leaving something for you. And you're going to feel it through that essence of that cord you had with them. And so in this time of upheaval, remember to be open to what specifically is for you. And it's, that's not necessarily the easiest thing to accept, because in some ways it feels kind of selfish. Like, this person died, their family, their community, all this stuff. But it is a gift for you in that death. It is a gift for you. And I'll talk about what it is when you're losing somebody who is a friend and that's still here. Right now, I'm just talking about somebody if somebody leaves their body, if somebody crosses over, right? It is okay to have what might feel like a selfish expression or selfish moment, because that spirit that left their body is giving you something. It is for you, so you can be selfish about it. And it doesn't mean it needs to overcast funeral preparations or how you deal with the community or family. But take time during this period of upheaval. Take time, because things are coming up that maybe you didn't even have access to when that person was alive. Maybe you didn't even know about it, right? But I'm asking you, in the next 9 days after the person is done, the next 9 days, ask yourself every day, if not more than every day, what is the gift left behind that helps me heal? What is the gift that is left behind that helps me be more complete, from being connected to this person? It's okay to ask those things, We're all here helping each other. We're all here completing each other and reflecting on each other to help each other become more whole and more light. And so when somebody leaves, ask yourself those things, because there is something for you. And it might be obvious. Most of the time it is not. Especially, in this case, I'm talking about a spiritual leader, and that person brought many gifts that were very obvious, and many gifts that weren't as obvious, but it was known that he brought many gifts, right? And so, what I'm saying is, when a person leaves their body and they leave those gifts to you, most of the time it's going to be something that you were not even expecting. Okay, let's talk about the upheaval before I pull another couple cards. And if you're watching, welcome. If you have questions, I'm just pulling a few cards from the deck. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. I may or may not be able to see them, but I'm just kind of checking out this new sort of tech streaming software. If you have questions, I might be able to see them and answer them and maybe pull a card for you or something. So let's talk about real quick what happens when it's like somebody leaves your life, or you leave somebody's life, or you break off a relationship. It's not the same kind of void as when somebody leaves their body, but there is still upheaval, right? There's still upheaval that happens. And oftentimes when you're leaving a relationship, or that relationship leaves you, there's something that, was not working. There was something that was not balanced. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't, especially with somebody leaving us, sometimes we don't even realize that that's what's happening, and it can sideswipe you a little bit, and it really hurts. And sometimes it's like, okay, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I got to be done with this, right? So those, there's many scenarios that can happen, but there's still upheaval, because remember that energetic connection. You have a cord to that, unless you've done some straight, real, deep cutting of cords to that person. You're still connected in some way, shape, or form, and so things are still being passed on back and forth, whether you're conscious of or not, whether you desire it or not. Things still can be passed back and forth to that person. And so I want to share with you a very quick story about something that happened recently in my life, where I, at the beginning of the year, I was kind of just like done with hanging out with somebody, with being close with somebody, and kind of took a step back, and I was like, this has been happening for a long time. Like, I just don't want to deal with this person anymore. And the fallout of the sort of not decoupling, we were a couple, but the de-friendshipizing, I guess, was slow, and it was pretty easy, but I don't think that person really got it, and really understood like where I was coming from, or respected where I was coming from. And as a result, the type of responses I got from that person were habits and behaviors and expressions of which were the testament to the reason why I couldn't be friends with that person anymore. just not speaking to me in relational ways, disrespectful, like very, agreements that I knew nothing about, expectations, judgments that it just didn't work for me. And the conversations we had didn't change anything for that person. They just kept doing the same things. And I was like, okay, this is where they're at right now. These are the behaviors I can't hang out with. So I'm done. And I went through a long I can be very loyal. And I went through a process for myself that was like, okay, I asked myself a series of questions. Is this somebody that if I met them now, would I want to be friends with them? Probably not. They used to be an old friend. Is this somebody that I want in my life, or am I being enriched? These are the questions. Ask yourself these questions if you're feeling like you want to move away from somebody. Am I being nourished in this relationship? Does the relationship feel balanced? Have I had all the conversations I know how to have to try to find the balance and the healing, or whatever is needed in this relationship, and nothing has changed? Well, if nothing has changed, then you got to take a break, or make a decision about what you need or want in that relationship. And so I went through all that. So by the time I was kind of like really done, I was done. You know what I mean? I was done. And that person was not. And it was difficult for them to see the ending, even though they kind of understood that to see the ending. And after that was all done, weeks later and months later, there was upheaval. And that upheaval was kind of like this stuff that these habits and these behaviors that I was feeling from that person that were not working for me. Like I I was starting to kind of notice them in other places in my life because, I claimed to the universe, claimed to the world, oh, I will not hang out with, I will not be close with people who act this way. And so then I made a very clear action, right? We got to take actions. If we're going to manifest anything, we got to take actions, right? If we want to change our life, we have to take actions. So I took action and let all of my spirits and ancestors and universal energies and everything, whatever. I said action. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm stopping this connection. I'm not going to feed it anymore. I don't want to be connected to this person. And so everything around me followed suit. And in order to do that, sometimes upheaval happens to get all the stuff I don't need up. Oh, there's behaviors over here I need to address with this person. Or, oh, there's this thing in me that allows these things to happen. Oh, like I'm being, all of a sudden the reflection, there's like an upheaval where I'm being shown myself very, very clearly in ways that sometimes I'm not always ready for. But also I'm being shown because I now have my spiritual team is backing me up because I've taken the action, I've led, and I've said, okay, yeah, like this is what I'm leading, and then I'm going to flow with it. I made the commands, like I don't do this anymore, and then I'm going to flow. And so everything came up that matched that stuff that I said and took action on that I did not want. So that upheaval. So I've been paying attention specifically. I remember the reasons that I left that relationship, and I've been paying very specific attention to anything that feels energetically or, like behavioral, anything that feels similar to that. I've been paying attention and watching it come up, sometimes in bizarre ways, so that I can be like, boundary here. Don't let that get to me. Check myself, so upheaval, there's a gift in that. There's, and we can go into, I could talk about this for a very long time. We could conversate about this for a very long time. But I just wanted to share that because it seems to be kind of in the ether, right now. So I'm just going to just pull a couple cards before we go. And one of them is communication. And I can tell you, when we talk about communication, I love this. By the way, this is the Urban Crow deck. It is the cutest deck. Like I like to get decks that make me laugh and like make me feel something inside. And I grew up with crows around me all the time. There's crows that love to follow me around here. Like the Crow deck makes me very happy. Anyway, communication. We tend to think, especially in times of upheaval, because that's what we're talking about when relationships end or when somebody dies. And we tend to think of the communication as, us with somebody else, the communication outside of ourselves. Often we think about it as talking. And I just want to remind us that the communication we have with ourselves is more important, is the most important communication that we can be practicing, communicating with ourselves and comprehending what's going on with ourselves, and then letting go, because we can't be talking to ourselves all day. We can't be in our head talking to ourselves all day. Letting it go and allowing our heart to communicate with our gut and our gut to communicate with the tips of our fingers. Allowing that full body system, that full body and spirit system lead in how holistically lead in how we take our steps and walk on this path. And especially if you've lost somebody recently, or you're walking away from a relationship, or a relationship walked away from you, the way that you allow what's coming from inside you, especially those whisper voices, those that when the spirit talks to you, those things that aren't blaringly loud, but they're just kind of like, hey, maybe you should just go take a walk outside, or maybe don't go to that party tonight, or don't pick up the phone and text him again. Right? Pay attention to that communication, especially during upheaval. It's there to heal you. We can heal ourselves. We can heal ourselves. Sometimes it's time to leave our bodies, and that is the healing. And that's hard to explain here when we're here in our bodies and we want everybody to live, and or we want a relationship not to end, or whatever it is. But sometimes, leaving our body is the greatest healing that we can have in a moment. And just because this is going on the internet, I'm not condoning suicide. I'm just talking about like natural death. Thought I should just say that. Okay, one more card before we go. It looks like I can't see your comments. I'm sorry. If you do have any comments or anything, put them in the comment box. I'll read them now, or I'll read them, later during, if you see this as a recording. Mischief. Mischief. These crows picking on a little cat. I really appreciate trickster energy. I really like energies and people and things that or elements of experience that show up to shake up the status quo, to cause people to look at things differently, that cause people to move. And during a time of upheaval, remember we're talking about when a relationship ends or someone dies, leaves their body. We have a lot of programs that tell us this is how you deal with death, and this is how you be sad, and these are what the appropriate emotions are according to your society and your family and the people around you. This is the appropriate program for the box that we're going to put you in now for this experience. That's a lot of what it is like to live in our current culture and society, especially here in the United States. I want to encourage you to be open to the mischief around you that will open you up and cause you to look at things differently. Because if there's something around you, like, a crow picking at a cat to make it move, there's a good chance there's a good chance that you do need to move. There's a good chance that the different perspective that you are being sort of, I don't want to say forced into, but encouraged very in a very meticulous way, in a very powerful way. This new way of looking at things is very important for your own growth. Sometimes it's the only way to get you to move. Sometimes mischief, sometimes that trickery is the only way to sort of help you get back on your path, or on a different path that's beneficial to you. So that's it. That's all I wanted to share with you. Thank you for joining me. I'm Aya Iworiosa from the Moon Garden Temple, coming back out of hibernation. Thank you for being gentle in your comments, likes, and shares. And I'm sending a lot of love to all of you. Okay. See ya.